See ya. Hi, Merle. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
How have you been?
Good. Ready for spring break.
Yeah. Hopefully we have some spring by then.
Well, I'm going south, so.
Are ya? Hello, my friend.
Hi, Dan.
How we doing?
Fine.
Good. Just about to be meeting.
Hi, Dan. Did you have anything you wanted? Shall we just talk about the questions?
Let's talk about questions. Hey, how are you, Mike? Did my phone just call you? No.
No, I asked Ryan yesterday. and he
This is
said
my
he
phone.
thought he would just
I'm just like,
I
I
said, we were talking
just hear hello, 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 and I'm like, oh, it's on. I'm so sorry. I don't know how I found you.
I guess if they want to go forward with it, that's fine.
This is,
We need to provide him something later.
okay. Doing good.
You know?
Well, you know. Right now it's going well, but come on. That's good. Very good. Okay. That's awesome. I'll stay in touch with you. And, I don't know what you guys are doing for spring break, or you guys doing some work? Oh, do you see what it is? Same kid. Same kid.
No, my son.
Your son.
When Matt got it, and I got it.
Oh, boy.
I know.
Okay, sounds great. Sorry for the butt dial, though. Thanks. See ya.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah.
How are you?
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Can I find the right place?
Oh, for the. Yeah, so, I thought I'd come out and answer any questions. So, to another sequel.
That'll work.
Hey. Okay. Not going somewhere. It's going around our house. Yeah. Strapped.
How you doing?
Good, how are you? Did I talk to you yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Ryan called you?
We emailed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so thanks for doing that. I thought, you said it wasn't necessary to come up necessarily, but I thought I'd probably be here in case any questions come up. So, right. Thank you.
You did.
Hey, Dave.
Sharon, how are you?
Good.
What's going on?
Much.
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Hall.
Hey, Dave. On the agenda?
Yeah, I just come to listen to Brendan.
Okay.
Been to one in a long time. Huh? You got any church where you want us or? See where they want to go? Where are you at? I'm ready. Something from Kelly's. Yeah. gentleman.
I know, I wanted to, and you weren't there. And then as soon as I left, you were coming in.
Let's have her speak to the Rotaries. Your dad called.
That's what Karen said. She was like, make sure. And
Yeah, now, some of the high school wants to say their school staff.
Last issue.
I understand my kids. Hello. I'm good. Twice in a week. And I'll be there Sunday. I don't know. I talk with you. I can't think of it better now.
I have none.
I was like, really? Well, talk about the same topic. They'll be well covered, I'm sure. I was going to say. Ben Bell told me this topics obedience. Do your Larry the Cable Guy. You're done. Enough said, right? There you go. Amen. Amen. I'm done. So.
How many
I like the way the room's finished. Certain places, I remember 2-3 years, 5 So there's some of the places. Can't learn it, however many there are. Oh, yeah, well, there must
Go ahead. We got full house. Watch. We got this thing for one. Oh, I guess. Show me yours. Wow, you ran everybody off on your side, Dave.
I know what happened. I told him I was trying to.
No, we didn't talk about litigation there. Alrighty, welcome everybody. It is 6:03, and I'm going to call to order the Union County School District Number 1 Board of Trustees Board Meeting. I need a motion to go into the board meeting.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. If you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty, I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion? Any changes to the agenda? None? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda items. I need to have a motion to approve the minutes from the February 13, 2024 school board meeting.
So moved.
I have
Second.
a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I need to be recused from check number 4311.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. I need a motion to approve consent agenda item number B, payment of bills.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve payment of bills.
Chairman Peterson, you can do all those together if you like. It's-
I like hearing myself.
Okay. It's your choice.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. So anyway, this is, I think, is the discussion that you need to recuse yourself from here?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, any discussion?
Recused from previous stated bill.
Okay, check.
Yep.
Okay, all right. So you got that? Okay, all right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. So we will do this. So I need a motion to approve consent agenda items C and D, the MOU and the SPED.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent items that are presented at this time.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. All right. Mr. Thomas, we can move on to our presentations.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, I would like to invite Jim O'Dean and Kate Schmidt forward to share with us the swimmers and divers this year. Come on up. Up there with the microphone.
Hello.
Hello. Long time no see.
Yes.
You have the
Go
floor.
ahead. You got the floor.
Well, we'd like to present to the school board our swim team, if they'd stand up back there.
Hey, Ward, who's the license to come forward?
Yeah, come on down.
These boys took second place at our conference swim meet and took third place at the state.
You can face those guys out in the audience, so you get your picture taken and be in the paper.
Right here.
Just right here.
Right here.
Perfect.
We had 21 boys swimming this year, 2 divers. Our diving coach here will say a little bit about our divers, but the swimmers, we've had 16 go to state this year. Many of the events, we had multiple swimmers in. I think it's the first time since 1987 that the boys swim team has brought home a trophy. And we're really proud of these guys. They're some of the best. Come over here and a coach for 10 years now at Evanston. And we've been coaching in Lyman for nearly 40 before that. So I'm getting up there. But I always get the question, how are the boys in Evanston compared to Lyman? And you got some good boys. I can't tell any difference between them really, but the ones that I have had on the swim team have exemplified an Evanston high school student and citizen of Evanston. You ought to be proud of them.
So, excuse me, Coach, real quick. You at least let everybody know who you are, and I think we forgot to have you introduce yourself as well.
Some of us old timers know, but.
Yeah, so,
I'm Jim Levine. I am from the Valley. I've been traveling over here for 10 years now. Got about 50,000 miles on my vehicle. But these guys are worth every mile. Coach Kate Smith's back here, and she's the assistant. She takes morning practices. Terry Wilt is our diving coach. I'll give a minute for Terry to come up and highlight some of her divers, but we've had someone in the top 6 in every event except for the 200 freestyle. And we had 7th place there and 2 others following that. So they placed 12 places at state. And just a little rundown, we had 10 qualifiers in the 200 free, and we only can swim ethically, can only swim 4 swimmers in each event. We had 10 in the IM, 11 in the 50 free. We had 2 divers with our state champion. We had 10 in the butterfly, 10 in the 100 free, 11 in the 500, 9 in the back, and 6 in the breaststroke. So that's our swim team, and Terry, you want to say anything about your diver?
I want the boys to say who they are.
Introduce themselves.
thank you. And while you do that, let us know what grade you are in.
And can they also tell you guys, like, what they qualified in for
Yes.
state as well?
Absolutely.
please? Thank you.
Or what you placed at conference and state? That'd be good. Say it loud so everybody can hear you.
Why don't you start?
I'm Wyatt Sawyer. I'm a senior this year. I qualified in everything. I swim the 500 and the 200 at state, and then relays.
What place you get?
I placed 4th in the 500 and 7th in the 200.
I'm Raymond Nebaker. I'm a junior. I didn't place in anything for conference or state, but I feel like I swam well this year.
You did.
I'm Hickey Phillips. I qualified in every event, and I swam the 100 back and the 200 IM this year, and I took 6th and 10 relays.
I'm Brady Schmidt. I qualified in the 500 free, and that's what I swam at state.
I'm Brandy. I qualified in everything but 2, and I swam the 100 back and 53 at state. My senior.
I'm Jackson Daniels. I'm a senior. Qualified in every event. I swam the 50 free and the 100 fly. Placed 2nd at conference in both, and 5th in both at state.
I'm Michael Jackson, and I qualified for diving and made it to the semifinals.
I'm Jaden Casper. I'm a freshman, and I qualified for the 500.
I'm Carter Horn. I'm a sophomore, and I did not qualify this year.
Melvin Hoagman, sophomore. I qualified in everything. Went to state for breaststroke and IM. Got 15th in both.
I'm Eric Hughes. I'm a senior. I qualified in diving, and I took 1st at both state and conference.
I am Jacob Olson. I am a sophomore. I qualified for everything and got 4th place in the 200 IM and 6th place in the 100 freestyle, along with relays.
So I'm Terry Wilt. I'm the diving coach for girls, boys, middle school, for all. This year we started off with 4, ended up with 2, MJ and Eric. I've had Eric for 3 years. It was a little rough start. He he didn't want to listen to having a coach, or he wanted to do his own thing for a while, but by his junior year, he figured out it's probably good to listen. He's done amazing. He came in this year and said, I'm going to have, that's diving language, but I'm going to have a reverse 2.5, a back 2.5, all these 2.5s, which you don't really see in high school diving. You see that in college diving, and I just, okay. And he got it. He had the hardest lineup by far at state, for both state 4A and 3A. So for conference, he took first, and then at state, he is our 3A state champion this year. So he had a great season. Our freshman, he qualified and made it to semifinals, which was a tough crowd because there was mostly seniors and juniors in that. So he did awesome as well, and I get 3 more years with him. But congrats to Eric, because he killed the field for sure. He did a great job.
Eric, how many points did you win by?
Is it 20?
I think it was 23. I was in the 400s, and the closest was, I want to say 380 or 390.
Good for you. That's great. So do you want to pursue with it the next level?
Yeah.
Any talks to anybody right now? Go Pokes.
He's actually, I forgot to add him, and then my 2 girls that I had, they're actually all going to nationals. We're going to nationals in July in Florida. So all 3 of them will be in nationals.
Terry, do you know what the last
Anybody?
time that
Reached out to some
state champion?
Besides
Male and female?
I don't know about male and female. The last champion was a girl in 2003. I don't know the last time there was a male diving champ. I'm not sure.
I found it, but I don't remember off the top of my head. I want to say 1990 or 80. So it's
And Coach Levine got 3A Coach of the Year at state, and Terry got 3A Assistant Coach of the Year at state as well.
Yeah, well, you know why we get Coach of the Year is because these guys swim and dive well. You'd never even have a chance at that if your team wasn't doing what they're supposed to do. We appreciate the school board, we appreciate the support of Bubba. He's been a pleasure to work with for me. I've been in his position, and it isn't easy. Other than that, amen.
Thank you.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, I'd like to introduce wrestling coach Garth Wagstaff. Garth, come on down.
Coach Garth Wagstaff, when I got this new job, this new title is about all it is. A year ago, I didn't know I would have to be doing this in front of the school board. So thank you for the opportunity for that, Brady. So I just also a little piggyback on the swimming. My sister swam. I've had cousins that swam. And talk about someone that's willing to put in the time, energy, and effort. I was like, I couldn't do that, so I had to go to wrestling because that is a grueling sport with what they did. So when they reach these accomplishments, that's why you don't have me do this, accomplishments, it is well-earned and well worked for. So good job, swimming team. Yeah, let's give it up one more time. I do have my staff here. Coach Moore's back there as well, Coach Cobolo and Coach Gerard. Appreciate them hanging around to recognize Brady. So we'll have Brady come on up.
It's lonely by yourself.
Tell me about it. So this says, you want to stand up there? Like on the podium? There we go. All right. So this is our state championship wrestler and his mom.
No, I'm sitting.
No?
Sorry.
Okay. He won the state title for us at 175 this year.
Wow.
In the 3A classification. So Brady Roberts. I have about 10 stories I want to share about Brady, but Coach Moore told me I had to keep it short. So I could tell you 10 stories about how great Brady is, and they'd all be fitting, and to have him stand up here is pretty special. So I limited it to just a couple. Probably my first one this year, getting the coaching a little, coaching since his mom reminds me that I've coached him since he's little. So I've been having to deal with this kid since he's just a little guy. But this year he's in the finals at Viewmont, and just kind of tell you kind of a little bit about him. But we're in the finals at Viewmont, and in the wrestling match you do a coin flip. So then first period they did a coin flip, and this is a kid we've never wrestled before. But the guy is huge. He makes Brady look small. So I'm like, I was looking at the assistant coaches. I'm like, I don't know where to put him, whether we should go top, bottom, defer. And so when it came time, I did what any good coach would do, and I looked at Brady and said, your choice, you choose. So, you remember that? And he looked right at me and goes, it doesn't matter, coach. And so I got to go back to the corner, and I sat down by my assistant coaches. I said, we're winning this thing. He knows he's going to win this thing. And we went on and we pinned the kid, right? So that's one story. And he wasn't arrogant or cocky. He just knew after wrestling 2 minutes, he goes, I've got this kid. So it was kind of cool to, it's like, gave me a little bit of confidence in the corner. I was like, okay, we can go anywhere at this kid. We're going to beat this kid. I had like lots of stories. One more story about Brady. I'm going to have Coach Moore share one, but he said he didn't want to. You want to share that one now? I knew I could get him up here. He's a great assistant. This is another fun story about Brady, just a little bit about him.
So after he won the state title, we went to the nice fancy restaurant at Wendy's. We took the team there and ate, and I walked behind Brady, and he was actually watching his finals match on his phone. And I tapped him, I said, do you win it the second time too? He's like, Coach, this match was really close. He goes, it was 0-0 going in third. And I'm like, well, yeah, we know, we were there. And it just tells you a little bit about Brady. He loves the challenge. He loves the close matches. He always wanted to wrestle the toughest kid. He seeks out the toughest kid. He wants, because he knows that's going to make him better. He's been that way forever. Football field, wrestling mat. He likes competition, and he just embraces it. And, as coaches in that state championship match, we felt pretty good, because Brady pretty much controlled the match. He wasn't putting points on the board, but he was in control of the match the whole time. And for him to say, that was a really close match, Coach, and we're like, yeah, we kind of know. But I think Brady knew he was in control, and he's a pleasure to coach, and he exemplifies what hard work does. He came in the room every night, busted his butt, he's in the weight room, and hard work gets you places, and Brady definitely exemplifies that. So
Still watches the match.
So one final story that I have, it's not really a funny story, but he wrestled a kid from Rock Springs, Sam Thornhill. Kid was ranked in the state. We ended up wrestling this kid 4 times, and it was a great battle. He was ranked as high as second in this 4A, but we ended up wrestling this kid 4 times. And even in when we were at Ronthon, Brady made the finals, and I'm looking and I'm sitting there coaching the kid, and Sam Thornhill's in the corner cheering for Brady. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. Well, the last time we wrestled the kid was at Rollins, and Brady ends up beating him, and Brady beats him all 4 times. And after the match, we like to have a little team meeting. We're getting ready to have our team meeting, and I'm like, where is Brady? Well, we can't find Brady. Well, I look over, and he's talking to Sam Thornhill. And I said, what was that conversation about? He goes, Coach, I figured it's the last time I was going to wrestle him because he's not in my region. I'm not going to see him at state. We're pretty good friends. And I was coaching him up on how I was being able to take him down. Brady had figured out how to take him down, and he took him down every time with it, but at the end he wanted to fix it. So because he goes, I'm not going to wrestle the kid again, I might as well make him better. Because that's the type of kid Brady is for a Rock Springs kid. He was like that way with every kid in our room. He worked with every kid that came in our room. You wrestle him, you're going to get better. And it's great to see him win the state state title, but hopefully he recognized that he won a state title. But he's also representing Evanston and our Evanston program, our Evanston community, our Evanston school district. And so we'd like to thank you guys all for taking the time and coming and celebrating this moment with Brady, but definitely had a lot of hands in getting him to where he is today. So your state
So what was your record on the year?
45-3.
45-3. Pretty impressive. Yeah. Pretty impressive. And then the other comment I have is congratulations. I've heard today, so Shrine Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So,
Really?
Yep.
All right.
3, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 3 of them that are
Three
going.
going?
Yeah, so, yeah,
That'll be fun.
yeah, it is. It's a good time. All right. Any other questions for him?
Want to say anything, Brady?
Thank you.
There you go.
I just say thank you. It does mean a lot, being recognized and stuff, so.
Great. Well, great job. Yep, congratulations.
Thanks, Brady.
Next.
Thank you.
So you have to stay here until Bubba's through speaking. Get out while you can.
Go, run.
Thank you guys. Run. Don't look back.
We'll see you in 3 years, young man.
Yes, next year. 3 times.
Better be right at a time.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, I'd like to introduce Matt Williams. He is Director of Special Education. Today he's going to provide you his annual budget report. Matt.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, thanks for having me here today. I'm grateful for the opportunity to come and share a few of my thoughts on our special education department here at UNT County 1. Hopefully this will pop up for you guys. That one's lagging, but that's for the crowd. So just a little, very quick, reminiscing back there as our swimmers and our divers and our wrestlers were here. Rewind back to 1995, I will never forget standing in the main gym at Rigby High School in my gym shorts and jersey, playing basketball, practicing, and looking up at one particular wrestler that just kept making the rounds on our indoor track, and he was all in wrestling garb and way too many clothes on to be comfortable, and I just thought, I don't get you. I was dying in my shorts and my jersey, and he was up there just getting it out, so that was kind of a fun memory. And then, excuse me, many years ago, I had the chance to do a dryland workout with our boys swim team and Coach Crompton, and I lasted for about 25 minutes, thinking I was pretty okay. I enjoy running and all that jazz, and to keep up with those boys was not in the cards, nor their coach at the time either. So just a lot of respect for those young men and young women that day and day, whether it's speech and debate or dancing or our wrestling programs or the boys and girls wrestling, and a plethora of others, just phenomenal young people that I really cool that we get the chance to associate with every day. It's kind of a dream job that way. So, just some overall data pieces. I'm not going to go through all this. We have an amazing crew of people, both certified and classified staff, that represent the services and supports that we give to students that fall under the IDEA here in Evanston, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. From our certified staff to our consulting teachers, our therapists, many therapists. One highlight is we have interventionists, and it is so uncommon to have 2 board-certified behavior analysts in any district, especially one of our size, and we're so grateful that we have the Andrew Trammell and Adrian Ashley that helps us support all sorts of different scenarios with kids as they work through different situations. So an amazing as far as department data, amazing group of people. And I could tell you my own stories about each one of these folks. They're just high-quality individuals. We also have a group of individuals that work via contract, that there isn't a need to have on a full-time scenario, or we're not able to have them on a full-time scenario, and so we utilize contractual agreements to make sure that we're giving a full package of services as a student requires it, whether it's deaf education or physical therapy. You can see we have another school psychologist that we contract with, Dr. Henscheid, that helps us several times a month work through these decisions and helping us understand how to best provide services for our students. So every year, we're always a year behind, and that's just the way that the state operates that way with the data that comes in. We get a report card, Special Services does. And I have quite a long document downstairs that if anybody would like to go through with me, I'd be more than happy to go through the data that way. But these are some of the highlights and some of the areas that we've met, and some of the areas here shortly that we're going to need to continue to sharpen our tools and continue to serve. We met our graduation rate and this is focusing on students with disabilities. We were within an acceptable rate for students with IEPs that may have dropped out for lots of different reasons. And we want that always to be zero, but we were within what the state works with us on that way. Our ability to get all students as appropriate to participate in statewide assessments is a big deal. All of these are federally mandated components, these indicators, and I'm grateful that we can give access, and everybody gets excited for assessments. Kidding. But equal access is critical, right? Equitable access is critical. Preparing students to receive an educational package that helps them to be ready for those types of assessments is critical. And that goes back to the individual student, their families, and then that fleet of professionals that service our students that way. Our suspension and expulsion rates were low, and again within the state realm that way. LRE stands for least restrictive environment. The very least restrictive environment that we want our students educated is in the general education setting, okay? And then there are many other environments that we look at as IEP teams to determine where is the best setup on any given situation to best serve a student. The least restrictive is in the general education setting. We've got a lot of those. The most restrictive, and some would argue that it's this, that, or the other, but the most restrictive, some would argue, is actually homebound, because you're not with your peers, right? Or jail, or something like that. And again, homebound is not being compared to jail that way, but it's when you're away from your peers to the extent that other students might have that. One aspect of this is our students that are in the regular education setting less than 40% of the day. So this typically represents our most highest need kiddos, right? And we are less than 1% of our total population that needs that type of service package that may take them away from their peers at times to receive that level of support. Disproportionate representation overall, that we're not biased to one class or one group of people or another. We look at students based on their data, based on their achievement, based on their needs, and make individualized education decisions for all students, and not becoming disproportionate in how we look at that. Every student that is at Evanston High School and Horizon High School that has an IEP, again, by law and because it's the right thing to do, we help them transition plan. So we start looking ahead to when that big yellow limousine doesn't pull up to the house anymore. And how do we get them prepared for college? How do we get them prepared for the world of work? Post-secondary training, post-secondary employment and such. And actually every year we interview our last year's seniors and we talk to them, hey, where are you at? How's schooling going after graduation? It doesn't have to be college. It could be a vocational training. We're interested in how are you bettering yourselves. And then we do talk about their employment. And it's a trick sometimes finding those 25 or so kids that way. But we do check up on our kiddos to try to help understand what we're doing, what we can do better, what we need to continue to do. It's really cool. At the high school, we have many students in the community doing all sorts of internships around. In the past, we've had kids working at Murdoch's, at the mayor's office, Smith's, lots and lots of different places, welding shops, fabrication shops, and getting kids practical internship experiences so that that transition to the world of adulthood, work, whatever you want to call it, is not foreign that way. That should not be, that cannot be a foreign concept to say, okay, what do I do now, right? We want to nip that in the bud. There are many different grade levels and many different areas that the YTOP covers. And we met our goals in several of those areas, in several of those grade levels. We always want to do better, okay? And now some of those areas we were below where we would like to be and where the state would like us to be as well. But there were several different areas of proficiency that our students with disabilities met, and we're exceptionally proud of them that way. As far as not meeting the target, there was one evaluation that we could have been a little bit more timely on, out of about 400 and something, okay? Again, that's no excuses. We can always better ourselves in making sure our deadlines are met. Placements in separate schools, okay? And that could be a school, that could be something similar to Hayden Peak Academy, that could be anywhere in the nation that we feel as a team, as an IEP team, that we need to help a student to access their education, that least restrictive environment that we talked about. The target was to be at 1.61%, and we hit 1.75. And how you get a 0.75 of a student, that's kind of a tough math problem for me to talk about, but we are, what I will tell you is that I feel very confident in our team's decisions as we determine a level of support that a student may need, even if that includes being outside of the district to receive that level of support. There's one thing that you should be well aware of. Public education does not, will not, cannot ever have an option of saying we tap out. We've tried, we've done, we're done, there's nothing left to do. That is never an option. And I appreciate our school building district level teams that understand that greatly and go to the nth degree to create, to find, and to program for all of our students, no matter what, no matter how many times something becomes more and more difficult that way. And then, like I talked to you about YTOP proficiency, there are areas of the various grade levels that missed that proficiency mark. Accomplishments. I'm super impressed with our teams as far as the work they've done around literacy. Oftentimes you cannot tell who your general educators are and your special educators are because they're doing the work. They're understanding. A good example of this is the work that many of our teachers do around literacy and utilizing the Y-Bill grant that Dr. Ingalls and Becky Sines do a wonderful job helping administer that to increase the level of awareness that our staff have of the art and science of reading. And our special educators, many of them have taken such huge advantage of that to help them understand those best practices around literacy and how to then translate that to specially designed instruction that is one of the foundational components of why a student may need an IEP that way. We have a great SEL support program throughout the summer that we run. It started with about 2 years ago with about probably 7 kids, and we've got a lot more than 7 that takes part in that and that has the benefit of doing a little bit right after school is over, and then does a little bit of work with this right before school starts to kind of give them a springboard to get back in action, right, and to help meet those rigorous demands of social and emotional components at school, elementary school. Elementary behavior support. We have some amazingly highly qualified people, and I mentioned our 2 board-certified behavioral analysts, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention our amazing paraprofessional team that have gone above and beyond when I've asked them to in everything they do, but specifically to become, you guys have got way too many acronyms and things. They're really, really good at helping support kids through behavioral situations. And I do have a really cool title for that that I'll get to you. Mental health support district-wide. Now, that's not specifically IDEA or special education, but it impacts all students. And that's one of the things I have the opportunity to help navigate Project Aware that we use. Mr. Eric Williams does a phenomenal job helping the mental health teletherapy be available to all students that are required, helping to do the massive digital social media campaign to bring to light the pitfalls of drugs, methamphetamines, underage drinking, and those types of things. It is inundated. I was with my son several months ago, and his computer was open, and he had one of our Project Aware little banners on there that had some catchy phrase about don't do drugs or whatever it was. I'm like, Jameson, that's awesome. I'm so proud of you for having that on there. And he's like, well, they kind of put it on all of our computers. So, Eric's infiltrated technology, and we have those really good reminders up that get refreshed every month, and so we're appreciative of that. All teams utilizing the IEP process to ensure least restrictive environment decisions, okay? And that looks like compliance training. Individual education plans can be very thick, and they're complex sometimes. And at the heart of it, there are kids. They're students that change every day, that think differently every day, that come with heavier backpacks every day, and hopefully sometimes lighter backpacks every day, metaphorically speaking. And to understand the compliance component of it, as well as the delivery component, it's a tribute to our amazing staff, as well as their look at understanding data and supporting their knowledge on how they work through that. We've implemented very good autism training throughout our elementary program, the STAR Autism program that I'm just very pleased with. We'll be having some follow-up training with that this summer. Team teaching supports. How are all of the adults dancing the dance every day, right? How are they working together? How does a certified teacher know how to best utilize an amazing paraprofessional in their classroom? How does a paraprofessional know how to bounce to 4 or 5 different classes, different content areas on any given day and be effective? And so we're really trying to support our teams through those team teaching, supported classroom supports. And honestly, our support and our certified staff and our support staff, they're the key to our greatest accomplishments. They support one another, we push each other, we love kids, and we move these mountains every day. In conclusion, we want to continue to work on our LRE continuum. Where do we best educate kids? That will be forever something we will be working on. We want to continually to use the data richness that UNO1 has to make good decisions. We want to continually have timely completion of evaluations in all aspects of IEPs. We want to continue to hone in on our behavior supports for all students and support them through that. Again, I mentioned specially designed instruction. That's one of the 3 pillars of special education. If a student has some sort of a disability, then we have to ask ourselves, is it impacting their education, and do they need specially designed instruction? And it might be 3 pretty simple words, but it is a monumental task to truly understand how to do that, how to craft a recipe to best service those kiddos. PLC collaboration, we have elementary and secondary teachers that are working between multiple content areas and multiple grade levels, and they're trying to PLC right. They're trying to find the time and the capacity to work with first grade, second grade, and third grade. And that's just an example, and it's pretty dang tough to split yourself in 3 different ways that way. And we're doing our very best to make sure that line of communication is open. Behavior supports and intervention, again, We're super excited with the level of supports we can offer to kiddos. Standards-based IEP goals and thinking. How do we get the kiddos, and they're working on their IEPs, to help climb that ladder to grade level standards? That's the whole reason behind IEPs in special education, is accessing grade level standards as appropriately and quickly as possible. Working on pinpointing specific skill deficits, and then target the heck out of those and measure, progress monitor, and make good decisions and move forward. And then the final one is support families through the IEP process. That happens every day as we meet as IEP teams throughout the district. Do our very best to answer questions. Do our very best to keep the IEP minutia to an understandable level so that we're speaking a common language of support for our students. We've got plenty of stuff we're going to have to forever work on. We truly do. We have the right people. We have the right attitudes in our people. We have engaged kids that are doing their best. They can always do better as well. And we're excited as a department to continue to support them in their acquisition of education, social, emotional, and behavior, and about umpteen other things that we all need to continue to work on as human beings. So that was a mouthful. I apologize. I kind of just went for it and tried to give it to all. What questions or wonderings or comments might you have for me?
Just one, when you were talking about continuing education or employment, what percentages, as you go back and interview the ones that have come through the program and have moved on, that have gone on to kind of continuing education, do you get about 50% that go that direction?
No,
or are you a lot less than that, or do you, or employment?
It depends from year to year to year, and I will get you a specific answer. I've got the documents downstairs.
I'm just saying in general, I don't need to have
right around
specific-
between 40 and 60%.
Okay, all right.
And it depends. I won't stay on the soapbox for long, but it's such a defined definition of what we can measure that sometimes it can leave out good stuff. Yeah. And so, anyway, we're
And
right
obviously
around there.
depends on the kids and the IEPs and things that you're dealing with
Yeah.
as you go from year to year. I understand
Yeah.
that. I was just kind of trying to get
Yeah,
a little ballpark. of
somewhere
that.
right in there, I would feel comfortable saying.
Okay.
Matt, do you have a real feel-good story for one of your people that have moved on?
When I took this job almost 8 years ago, I was talking to Mr. Lester, and he said, Matt, it's going to be different. You're not going to be working with kids as much. I'm like, oh, yes, I am. I'm going to be working with kids. And he's like, you're going to really be working with kids. Anyway, it's been really, really tough to be out of the classroom that way. But what I will tell you, I was in a meeting just today, right? I do get to work with kids. It's just a different avenue of working with kids. And I was in a meeting just today, and sitting with a family, sitting with a team, and we laid out a plan of what we felt like we needed to propose, and then we turned some time over to the family and just said, what do y'all think? And it's a very sobering experience and a gratifying experience to have a parent look at you and very, very plainly and directly, and only the way a parent could, say, I want the best for my kid. And to have a piece of that, that's pretty cool.
Pretty good. Good.
So, it is way fun working with kids. Yeah. Anything else?
Good job.
Thank you.
Randy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For all you're doing.
You bet.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, I'd like to invite Mr. Bubba O'Neill to provide his budget presentation.
What budget?
Budget presentation.
You're promising the budget?
No,
I understand yours has a bunch of parentheses around it.
How do I expand this? How to expand it?
Slideshow.
Yeah.
Pushing your race.
Look good up there.
Yeah, just looking good on mine. All right, I'm gonna make this really quick. There's bets in the back that I'm gonna take way too long. Here's the deal, I'm not as important as the guy that just finished before me, so I'm gonna try to move through this fairly quickly. Most of what I have to say is very positive. Year in review, if you look at 3A activities, we had a great year. State championships, state runners-up, top 4 in nearly everything as far as our sports go, and very top of the heap in many of our 3A, 4A activities. And we did qualify for the state basketball tournament, which is a lot of fun for me because I get to see folks I saw many years ago. They're still hanging around the event center up there, so it's been a lot of fun. We had coaches that were coaches. You heard that earlier, coaches of the year, and so we've been very fortunate. It's been a fantastic year in terms of success in activities, and I got to hand it to our coaches. They've done a fantastic job. Year in review, part 2 is there's been a cultural change, and it's been a lot of work and a lot of work done by our coaching staff, by our kids, by our principals, many people, as far as commitment, support, attitude, effort. It's been a challenge in the past, but I tell you what, they've done a great job, and it's fun. I was just up in a meeting with our wrestling coaches prior to this board meeting and spent 2 hours, and what a great bunch of guys, and I'm proud to have those kids with our kids. And they're kids to me because nearly all of them were kids that I taught in the classroom or coached at some point in time. So those young guys are doing a great job, and I can say that about every single program we have. This has been the best year that I can imagine. We have great kids, and Allie sitting over here, and she's one of those examples. Such a positive attitude, a tremendous athlete, a tremendous dancer, but more importantly, an unbelievable person. And that's just a great example of what we've got going to school right now in our high school. And sorry to see you go. I'll see you at the golf course quite often. Things to do, we need to find a way to hire qualified personnel. That's our challenge right now. We have great people, and they're filling all of our positions, but some of those people are going to be moving on, and we're going to have to find a way to get folks that want to be involved with kids, that want to spend extra time with kids, even though it's difficult. It's difficult. There's no question about sometimes it's not a fun job. The fun is the kids. The adults are not so fun at times, and we've got to find a way to get these young people coming out of college that want to be with our kids and spend that extra time. I remember when I graduated, I couldn't wait to coach and do things. I started in Farson Eden, and I was not only a 3-sport coach, football, basketball, and track, but I was also the student council rep, the junior ledge rep. I did about everything, and I loved every second of that. And I think we're having a hard time finding those folks. And when we find them, Coach Rigby, we need to make sure we get them hired. You can't be letting them go. Short and long-term issues, inflation has reached a point of ridiculousness. I don't even know if that's a word, but that's, in my department, that's what we're facing. When I started this job, we gave $10 a kid for meals. Now we're at $12.50 a meal for kids. You can't take them to a fast food restaurant for $12.50 a meal and feed them. You're looking at $18, $20 to feed a kid. We started out, when I started this job, we were about $65, $70 per hotel room. We're going to pay, in some cases, $150 a night for hotel rooms. Things have gotten crazy in those areas. We pay officials, Mr. Thomas, we pay officials, when I started, we paid football officials $65 to do a game. Now we're paying $100 per game. And then we're paying nearly everybody in that Suburban that's traveling together mileage. We're having to feed them and everything else just to get them to come back here to do our stuff. And it's sometimes getting overwhelming. And I put in there a bunch of stuff that we're paying for that I never dreamed that we were going to pay for when I started this job. Concussion testing, helmet reconditioning every single year. Athletic injury supplies, my budget's $1,500. I paid $15,000 in athletic injury supplies last year. Girls wrestling, family ID, huddle, which we never paid for before, is a $10,000 bill each and every year. So we have a lot of stuff going on, and it's not going to get easier. I'm not begging for money. I'm just telling you where we're headed. Try to do the best we can. Some of the things that we're able to do this year outside of our budget through our student activities account, we bought a diving board. First one since the buildings were built. A set of drums, or many sets of drums. I think we paid for half of those because they were necessary. Cheer mat, competition cheer mat. A set electronic start pistol. We were actually able to find blanks, and we pay $1 a piece for blanks. Every time we shoot that gun off at a middle school meet, it costs us $1. And you don't think that's much, but we'll shoot that gun 300 times in one single track meet. And so we have a lot of stuff that,
Out of control.
yeah, it is. It's out of control. Inflation, which I know that we don't have inflation in our country, but we're seeing inflation in activities in a big way. And the last thing I want to say, so I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. I want to thank everybody. One of the things that Mr. Williams talked about is what Mr. Lester says, not being with kids, not being able to spend time with kids, and I really don't get to spend much time with kids, and I really miss that portion of it. But I look at everything that we're able to accomplish in our activities programs and all the people that we bring in to make sure that happens. It's pretty amazing what you guys have given us. I think we've forgotten about a stadium, we've forgotten about the bubbles, we've forgotten about the many things that created, and the opportunities it creates and how that impacts kids. And you guys have done a fantastic job of it being a positive impact on kids, along with Mr. Thomas, along with our principals, Jared Dennis and the maintenance staff, transportation. I could go on and on because I don't even do a job. My people do the job. Donna Bruce and Boyd and his workers and all of you. So I want to thank all of you for creating those opportunities. And one of the things I wanted to put on here, I was going to ask our students that were here earlier today a question about what is your reason why, and then I put on there or your noble cause. For me, it's a noble cause. I was thinking back to when I was in Farson Eden, when I graduated from college, and I was going to move on, I was going to get a job, and I was going to do these amazing things. I was going to coach, I was going to teach, and I did that for a long time. And why? Why go through all of this? I had a discussion today at the high school. I think Mr. Lester and Mr. Kohler missed the conversation, but we were having a conversation about coaching and how hard that really is, and people not understanding my appreciation for coaches, no matter who's doing it and what people say about them. But every time you walk out of that locker room after a win or a loss, it's the most difficult thing that you'll do in life, because at some point in that moment, you've disappointed somebody. Someone didn't get to play enough, they didn't get to score enough, maybe they didn't get to play at all, maybe you yelled at them on the sideline or whatever that is. And yet, each and every week, our coaches come out and do it again. Some of them, like Mr. Peterson's wife, she's done it for 35 years. 35 years of doing that, and how difficult it is. And I just want to say thank you to our coaches and our sponsors, because I know how difficult it is, because I field the phone calls about how they're not doing their jobs. And our coaches never not do their jobs. They're always fantastic. They always care about our kids. They'll always do the very best they can. So I want to stop with that. I didn't want to go into my noble cause. I wrote it on there, but I want you all to think about your noble cause, why you do what you do. I know none of you are paid, so you're not doing it for the pay. Like many teachers, educators are not paid at a high level. They do it for other reasons. What is your noble cause? Why do you do what you do? Why do you continue to come up here and sit and listen to people like me babble on forever? Why do you do it? And I would ask all of you in the audience that's involved in education, why do you do what you do? Because you have to have a noble cause. Because I get questioned all the time about why I do what I do, or some might say, well, you don't care about kids. That is absolutely the furthest thing from my mind. Each and every day I wake up, and I have done this for 35 years, every single day, it's been about kids. Much like all of you, it's about our kids. And so, as you go through your time, thank you for what you created for our kids. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I seen in your comment in there, $100,000 for backboards and shot clocks.
Backboard, shot clocks, and net systems, about $100,000 to outfit it. They're about $12,000 a piece.
That voted on by
Not us.
I know. That's just amazing. So to
Yeah.
implement the shot clock at high school.
Yeah, the shot clock's going to be about, because we'll have to do it at the high school and both middle schools because we play there. And actually, I talked with ADs this weekend. Many of them are just going to put them in every gym because at some point they're going to have those in every single place they play. It is it's a costly endeavor, no question about it. Something that, yes, I did not vote for. Any other questions?
Mr. Julian going to come back?
I hope so. He was great to have here. You know, what he did, I think more than anything, was reinforce the idea that you're already doing many of these things. Let's put it all together and make it work for kids. He's all about kids. I love the guy to death. He's pretty special, and love to have him back. He wants to come back, and he loves our staff.
Good.
He thinks we have a great group of young people. I say young again. Those guys are all in their 40s now, so
It's young.
it's young, very much so. Any other questions?
Papa, thank you.
Thank you very
much.
No,
Appreciate it.
I don't do much. Like I said, I got a great staff, but I appreciate the kind words.
Thank you.
Bubba, I appreciate your effort and what you do, because no one knows the headaches of being an AD until you've been there, and I was one at Mountain View. And just think about one thing. If you don't have a coach for that sport is gone. And you're up against that every time you lose somebody. And as much as some people complain about that coach, what are we going to do if we don't have that coach? So
We do face that every time we try our
some people need to see that.
I will say this, I got to ask a question this weekend I was at state basketball. Before that, I was at a legal issues conference, which was very enlightening, but they were asking me when I was going to be done, because I've been in it for a long time. There's only 3 or 4 of us that have been around for over a decade, but they asked me how much longer I could do it, because they believe it's getting extremely tough. It is getting tough. 90%, 95% of my job is the best job in the world. I do get to think about kids, and I do get to think about activities. There's only about 5% of my job that's negative, Mr. Bennett, and that's what keeps me going. There's so many great things. Like I said, I started with this young lady. She's amazing. You guys don't know how, maybe you do know how special she really is. We have a lot in our school that are like her. Not exactly. She's a very special young lady, but that's what keeps you going, and like it keeps you guys going. You do it for those kids, grandkids, kids, those types of things. So no, I have a great job and great support.
Just
Thank you, guys.
remember, I put you there.
Yes, you did. That was a
long time ago.
That was a point of discussion this afternoon. It was. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director O'Neill.
All righty, Mr. Thomas, we will move on to discussion items.
Discussion items. I'd like to invite Brennan Ellis to come on down from the high school, FFA, Red Devil Ranch, coordinator, facilitator, teacher.
A lot of hats, I guess.
Yeah, yes, sir.
So apologize, I'm a little under the weather. I've been out of school for the last 2 days, so if I lose my voice, it's not because I don't want to talk to you. But we're putting forward, I don't have my stuff with me either. I've tried to stay away from people. I'm not supposedly contagious anymore. Or watch out, Allie. But, thank you. We're working towards improving our irrigation system out to the school ranch. I've been in contact with state people, different engineers, companies working on the best possible way to improve what we're doing out there. And our kids have been completely involved in almost everything we've done, whether it's the aftermath of me having a meeting or something like that, trying to improve on things. And what kind of got this started is the work that Mr. Davis has done as the water, our ditch master. They're working at piping the irrigation water through, so it's going to be more benefit. We'll be able to get all the water. And in doing that, there's spots on our property that we don't ever get. It's not great that way. It's hard to irrigate it. So we're working to improve that, and putting on a center pivot system seemed to be the best opportunity. We'd be able to regulate and keep down within our, or below our water right of the amount of water we'd be using. We went out to bid, or what I did is I went out and I wrote a grant for $110,000. And we were able to be awarded that through the Wyoming Department of Education with a demonstration grant. Now, maybe Mike will correct me, but the ditch was supposed to start about what time? It's been delayed, I know that.
Well, we're back, we had a meeting last week with Ryan. I had the engineer here. It'll probably be the fall of '25, if we're lucky.
Yeah.
And I think, I hate to speak out of turn here, but we've had so many setbacks, environmental mostly, Army Corps of Engineers. We've jumped through those hoops, and I would really think that the fall, late summer of 2025, we should start construction.
Our projected, when was the first date we thought we might be able to start on it? It was supposed to be 2023, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago. So in doing that, I was quite proactive, I guess, in comparison to where the state's been, because it's taken a while. But I guess we'll have a center pivot ready to go, and be able to plumb into it when the canal or the ditch piping all happens. Until that point, we'll still have to flood irrigate because there's not enough water that comes through. We've got to take care of neighbors, we've got to take care of ourselves. It's tough sometimes. But this center pivot kit and installation is paid for 100%. It's $110,000, and that is paid for. So I guess what I'm asking for is permission to make the purchase. We did go out to bid. This is from Valley Implement, was the center pivot that we chose, and I went back and forth a little bit and said, well, there's things that we need on this that aren't there, and there's things that we can take out that the kids can do themselves for installation. Not huge things, not talking heavy equipment past what we can do out there, but there are some ditches and there's things that we can trench in, putting in the 6-inch line or whatever we're doing. So I guess in the end, in short, long trail short, we're asking for permission to proceed with this purchase of this item. And the way it works is the school district would pay for it up front, and then immediately as soon as we receive it, then we can send the receipt back to the state and they reimburse us 100%.
So it may seem silly, right? We're talking about buying this and having it put together and built before the ditches is going to be there to be able to support it. But that's the way grant money works.
Well, yeah,
they gave us the grant. We have 18 months to actually purchase and get on site the actual pivot itself. If we don't have it on site by June 30th,
yes, June 30th
by
of this
June
year.
30th,
Of this year.
we lose. This year we lose $110,000. That just goes back to the state. So it's
I've pushed it as far as I can back with lead time and what they'll need to get it produced. In talking to our representative, Phil Foster, he's been wonderful. Lots of information, and really sit down, went over what we had, what we were able to work with for water rights. And he said, well, this is what you can do. And I kind of thought we were limited. He's like, no, it's just going to be a low flow, slow moving center pivot. I'm like, that sounds great. And then we've worked on other plans and put a pump into it that'll help, and then a flow meter to make sure that we're within regulation. But we're as close to the bar as we can be. If there's any setbacks, then it would cause a problem. But I talked to the state to see if there's an extension. They said, no, it has to be done, has to be on site by the 30th of June, and asking permission today, I guess. Then we proceed, and I give him a phone call either tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, Chairman Peterson, members of the board, what we'll have to do is just,
Do we have to go back and fix the agenda?
yeah, we can fix the agenda when we get there, just add it.
Okay, yeah, because it doesn't come down as an action item.
Just add it as an action item E when we get to that.
Yeah, we'll have to motion
amend the
to
agenda.
amend the agenda at that point, so.
Okay.
So are you going to put it together and just leave it in the field? Is that what you're going to do?
For now, I mean, until
For
we
2
can,
years, yeah.
until the project comes through, because we're trying to work with, what's coming through and be supportive of that. And in the end, my whole purpose is, it's not so Mr. Ellis can say, we put a center pivot in. It's so we can improve the education of these kids. That's the whole purpose of that farm ranch, is the kids can have that experience. They can turn around and say, you know what, I did this growing up. If not, they'll have a love for agriculture. Hopefully, they'll hate it, I don't know. But they'll hopefully have a love for agriculture. And I know that there's hard aspects, there's easy aspects about it, but almost every kid that I've talked to after they have come in and done, had that class, said, I'd go back and I'd do that again. And I do have some kids that, they try and get on the rolls again for the next year. And it's like, no, you've had it once, I gotta let other people in there. But in the whole scheme of it, we want education to be there. I'm not going to say that Wyoming is behind, or even Evanston, but we still flood irrigate, and I'm not saying that's the worst way to do it.
It's not a good way either.
And the more we find out, it's like, well, you got to build the ground aquifer. It's like, how many people are pumping out of the ground here? It doesn't apply necessarily, but the water application, when the water's limited, will hopefully benefit you guys with your state lease behind us, and benefit us. I know I've talked to Mike a little bit about having it run a full circle, go around, so it would actually irrigate part of you guys's, and we'd work at a partnership on that. But that's just one conversation we've had that would maybe benefit you guys, maybe benefit us. But in the end, it's projects and opportunities for these kids to learn and grow. The person sitting right next to you, Caleb, how long have you guys had a center pivot out on your property?
30 years.
Has it been beneficial?
You wouldn't irrigate 220 acres without it, that way, especially the crop. You won't irrigate alfalfa any other way, that way.
One thing about it, the kids learn the water is very, very, very important.
It's the lifeblood of this country.
In the Old West, they used to kill for it, so they will
did.
learn that.
You didn't take your shovel to go move dirt, you took your shovel to defend yourself.
Mr. Davis, then I got a couple of questions.
I'd like to clarify. First, let me stand up so I can get here.
Come on down.
Come on down.
Come on down.
Price is right.
Since we're neighbors to the Red Devil Ranch, first of all, I'd like to compliment this gentleman for all the hard work. Have any of you guys been out there to see the corrals and the chicken coop and everything? He's a talented individual. This school district is grateful, or I'm grateful that he's over there, and we should be very proud of him.
You're supposed to say insane, too.
Yeah, the old saying is, whiskey's made for drinking, and water's made for fighting over. There's a couple things that, hopefully, if you get this thing on site June 30th, and it sits there a complete year, you don't lose anything.
Oh, we should be good.
Okay, good. There's another thing, it's our fault up here on the Upper Bear River that the Great Salt Lake is going dry. So you're gonna be impacted by a lot of water rights, not now, but in the future. Water is gonna be very, very critical. Absolutely. And an advantage to this, you put a pivot system in, and it doesn't matter how many acres you're irrigating, the guilds know, you're gonna use less water. Our pipeline, when we get it in, is gonna be pressurized. It comes 7 miles from Millis. You guys know where Millis is at. Comes through the Grass Valley, Uinta Meadows. The liability that the ditch company has right now is just, when we turn the ditch on, I don't sleep at night for fear of a blowout somewhere. We've, so far in the last 30 years, Jan and I have been out there, we haven't had any big issues, but you never know. So I compliment him for doing what he's doing. This ditch, I was gonna tell you this, just above where Brendan and I split the water. It'll either go to me or the days, or it goes to the school district and then the state piece. From the time we turn the ditch on till it gets there, we lose 47% of our water. And that's just through sandstone formations that it leaches it out. Grass Valley's terrible. Renita Hertzman's house, just above it, is terrible. You know, we just lose a lot of water. So that being said, this is a plus for him and the ditch company, and hopefully other folks that take a look at this. It's a way to save water. This new line, when we get it done, will be pressurized. So it's gonna take him a lot less water. You know, it's hard to get water to run uphill unless you got a lot of it. And we don't have a lot of it out there. We have a very weak water right, 1915. So when the ditch is when the river's regulated, we're some of the first to get cut off unless you have access to Sulphur Creek water, which a lot of folks do. And that's easy to get. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. And thanks to Brendan, Ryan, and to you folks.
Thank you. So, a couple of questions real quick on this. All your water rights are in place as far as your point of diversion's not going to really change because it's going to be pipe, but your means of conveyance will obviously have to change.
A little bit, yeah.
And so, with that being said, I'm looking at the image that we have, and half of that pivot is sitting or going across property that is not owned by the district. So is it only going to be a half pivot at this time?
It's a half fan, and Mike said he was going to look at whether he could run it on his property and irrigate that whole section. It does stay within the roads if we chose to do that. That's up to the people who carry the lease.
I know, and then with that, is that state land or is that deeded land?
That's state.
State land. So, but even with that, your means of conveyance would also have to change out onto that piece of property if you decide to go from flooding to a sprinkle system.
Well, there's only a certain percentage of that state land west of your property fence that is irrigated.
So what about, if it's not irrigated, is there water rights already on there where that pivot will extend across?
There's water rights.
But you can't get it because of the elevation?
When you bought the 40 acres or whatever that acreage is. And then the state had the water right on what I lease.
Okay.
There's a legitimate water right out there. When you mention the point of diversion, the point of diversion is Millis.
It's at Millis itself, okay.
That's our point of diversion for, it's called the Evanston City Ditch.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's a full circle in there, but I had them it should be written down on it that says that is not school.
Yeah, it says not school property, so that was my question.
Yeah. When they put the circle in, I was like, that's not our ground. You can see the faint line here. He's like, I can't really tell what the guy's talking to the guy over the phone. I said, on this side of it, put down not school district ground, that way I can clarify.
Okay. Yeah, so right now, we're just gonna run a half pivot with it.
The pivot would sit on our side of the fence, and then if it does end up being that way, to benefit the Davises or whoever has the lease, it would be, we'd adjust our fences to make it functional for that, to cross
Depends on
through.
which way the wind blows.
That's right. Hopefully, and we put it on the uphill side.
Go ahead.
Dave, there would, again, if I would have to go back to the state, when I renew that lease, I would have to go to them. I'd have to probably have someone come out and say, okay, this is what's in the making. We have an opportunity here to put the full pivot in. They would have to make the decision, not me, then I could pass that on to Brendan.
In the end, a benefit for us, it would be that it could do a full circle, and I'm not having to do back and forth. It would be beneficial that way, and then it's that much less water that can be pushed down further. Because there's parts that I know Mike doesn't get to clear down at the end. There's not enough water to go there. Maybe with this, there would be enough water that he can push further. So.
And then the other thing on this one, as far as electrical with it?
Electrical, the
is
hookups.
Included in this cost?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. There, as far as the panel and what goes in the center pivot, yes.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Brendan, with the pumping out of your line, Mike, is it enough to run the pivot, or do you gotta have a booster pump at the pivot?
I would have a booster pump for the stuff that sits for us, but if it's around the pivot, it would be good. And it would actually, we'd work with that, because there's, right next to Davis's house, or that, there's a little parcel there. But I'd like to convert that over to a wheel line so it doesn't flood them out every year. Mike was able to put a road in. I think that's helped a bit to keep the water from flowing over. So, you know, I can't say we stop all groundwater, but I'd like to put a wheel line in there, but it would all be pressurized off that one pump. So maybe for 5 days, we shut down the pump, or vice versa, and it hits 6 hours or 12-hour sets and goes across there. It would hit better than it has.
And I guess that's another question that I had. What was the decision between the pivot itself and a wheel line system?
Wheel line, it would just be, I say it's too big to go across there for a wheel line. The center pivot would be up there, but there's another spot. The wheel line, that's just hypothetical thinking. That'd be something I'd go get another grant for, or we work towards doing what's in between us and the Davises.
No, I mean, just the section that we have right here that you've got the pivot on right now. The decision between a pivot and just a wheel line, I guess that's what I was trying to figure out.
We would have to run a lot more water. If you're going to be doing wheel lines, it would cover that area. We'd have to run at least 2 wheel lines, where one center pivot would do everything with a 6-inch line. And you're running at least a 4-inch on a wheel line, if not up to a 5, depending on which direction we went.
Wheel lines are a lot more work than a
They are.
pivot.
No, I know, I understand.
Oh, no.
But what I'm saying is, I agree. I mean, you got kids and you're talking about it. I mean, you can just drag pipe if you wanted to too, right? I'm just saying, I'm not here to argue with you about anything, but, you know, when work and work, I mean, I moved pipe, you know, as a kid, and so I'm not being argumentative about this. I really think this is a great idea. I just want to make sure that we have everything covered as we move forward, right? And especially on the means of conveyance, make sure we have everything in place, that we get this installed here, and then all of a sudden we have an issue that we have with you saying that there's already existing water rights on that other half over there, and then just changing that over through there, so, but.
Just another, Brendan, I need you to clarify, when you say you're gonna pump, Ryan, we talked about the retention ponds the other day with the engineer. Is that, you would pump out of those, is that?
It would be just out of the pump, the line coming in. Like I said, we can't do that until we get the canal in, or I say keep the pipe line coming in.
Okay.
That way there's enough water. If there's not enough volume there, it won't benefit you or me, because there won't be enough water to go away.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it would have to have that full volume.
I wasn't sure how you were gonna pump.
It would be an inline pump, more or less, that would pressurize everything to either, and we'd have it set up that we either go to the wheel line for, it's set a period for irrigation, or it would go to the center pivot, and then we'd also have little spots we hit those corners so don't lose those.
Okay.
And then the hope is we don't have any ditches that go on the 7 acres that where our corrals are sitting, but it always produces good hay if we irrigate it and fertilize it. So we'd be able to put some taps into that, and also be able to irrigate that and increase by 7 more acres. So it would increase overall everything.
Chairman
Thank you.
Peterson, just a point of clarification on the electrical. You might recall a conversation we had probably about 6 months ago as we were looking at an easement with Rocky Mountain Power. And so there are 6 power poles, 5 power poles across that property that are going to need to come down. We'll have to do direct bury so that pivot will be able to make its way around. And so that will be a cost that we're working with Rocky Mountain Power. There'll be a transformer that's going to need to be brought. And so there are some external costs outside of this grant that will have to be taken care of.
Sorry for miscommunication. The electrical that went to the center pivot, yes, covered. Sorry.
Okay.
There we go.
All righty. Thank you. Well, thank you, and then we'll have to, when we get to the action items, we'll make that at that
Chairman
point.
Peterson, members of the board, just one other thing with this, and part of the pipe project, the ditch project, if you remember years ago, it was now 2 years ago, we talked about soccer fields out there. Part of this grant would provide green space. We have a retention pond out there that has to be maintained. We're still looking at 4 grass soccer fields out there. We'd like to work with the city. The grant would pay half, we'd pay half. Hopefully the city would be interested because their soccer fields at Aspen are inadequate. And that's something, again, kind of way out there depending on how this grant comes through, but something we've talked about in the past. At one point, we've talked about turf out there, but since we put all the money into the stadium, that's not the case. But if we could grass and it works in with what the hay is out there, and we kind of move forward with that. But it's, like I said, I hadn't heard for a number of years until Mike came and brought it back up that that's a possibility. Our needs have changed, but we still have a need for soccer fields in our community.
Yep.
So just one other thing to think about.
There's always things to think about.
Yep, thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you very much.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, just a very quick legislative update. Hopefully you guys are up for quick, because there's nothing quick about the legislature. There are a couple of the bills that are of high interest to, I think, us. Number one, probably the most important thing, is the budget. Has not been signed by the governor yet, but it has been approved. It does have ECA just a little smaller than last year's, but above 4%, which for us is extremely good news. That means we can go ahead and start our budget process knowing that the funds will be coming in. We still suffer decline in enrollments. We still have some other issues moving away from the ESSER funds, but that ECA was extremely important to us. Hats off to Representative Berger and Senator Schuler. Again, they represented us very well. So just quickly, a couple of the legislation that's of interest to us. This is House Bill 92, parental rights. If you're familiar with that, that one has not been signed yet, but another parental rights bill from the Senate. The governor did not sign it, but he let it go into law without his signature. The House bill, parental rights, is one page. Really doesn't impact us at all because our board policy books are full of policy that protects the rights of our parents and encourages the school district and our parents to be partners in the education of children. Senate File 9, I think, is the parental rights that came out of the Senate, is much more potentially challenging for us. Not that we ever change our commitment to the rights of parents, but notifying parents and the obligation to provide notice are quite extreme. And we already provide notice for FERPA and HIPAA every summer. I don't know how many parents are even aware of those rights that are shared with them. Probably the most interesting part of the parental rights bill that came out of the Senate is the ability for a parent to seek redress if they feel that their rights have been violated. That's already in our current board policy, but now it is extremely tight, restrictive. Parents have the right to petition me. I have a number of days to get back to them. It's all very tight, like our like some of our other policies. If they don't like my decision, they can go to the board. If they don't like the board's decision, they can actually take it to a hearing officer at the state level. A lot more red tape, where typically we're used to solving those problems, so we just take care of them and work with our parents and get it done. Just a lot in that bill, if you've gone through it, and a lot of things that we have to make sure we dot our I's and cross our T's, or potentially we'll have action against us. The number one thing that I keep saying is I've always been 100% for parental rights, not worried about that portion at all. This actually sends the right message, I believe, is that we should do nothing without involving parents. But to do our job, there are times that we can't get a hold of the parent and need to do certain things. For example, we do risk assessments. If a student has threatened to hurt themselves, sometimes we can't get a hold of parents and those risk assessments need to be done. According to this new statute, we could not do that. The parental, what is that PNA? What does that stand for?
Prevention Needs Assessment.
Yeah, we do an annual survey of our students. The state requires us to do it. It is a passive parent approval. In other words, we send out notice we're giving the test. If they want to opt out, they can. Now that's changed. It is no longer passive. It is all, you have to get a parent signature, which I think will kill the PNA in the state, not just for us. It's just something we've supported the state. My guess is we probably, if the opportunity's given, we'll just pull out of that assessment because of, it's just impossible to get 750 students to sign to take that PNA. So those are things that'll just be a little tricky, but again, our commitment to communicate with parents, I think the positive part of this bill is it communicates to every staff member their obligation to communicate with parents about the health, emotional support, academic needs of their students. So that's the good thing. So that's Senate File 9. And House Bill 92. Probably the most concerning piece of legislation that's out there right now is House Bill 125. If you're familiar with that, that is repeal of gun-free zones. Reason why it's concerning to me is basically it targets schools. So it repeals all gun-free zone areas, including schools, universities, and anyone with a concealed weapon permit can carry in schools, including universities and legislative sessions. And the interesting things is they talk about it in terms of activities. So school activities, if you have a concealed carry permit, you can carry. This basically does away with our CKA because CKA is much more restrictive for our own employees than this law is. So why would we be more restrictive with our employees than the law requires? It's almost that we're violating their right to carry a gun. A proactive way, I think, for us to deal with this is to offer the training for anyone who does have a concealed carry permit that wants to carry in our schools. We'll have an annual training that will provide opportunities to meet with our local law enforcement, to meet with administration and talk about strategies in terms of protecting our students and our other staff members. So I'm hopeful that the governor will veto this. There's a good chance that he will. WASA, which is the superintendent's organization, Wyoming school boards have petitioned that this be vetoed. I sent my personal recommendation that this vetoed. Again, I'm all for gun rights, but in terms of protecting our students, schools should be gun-free zones. Again, I just can't imagine going to a wrestling match and knowing that 40% of the individuals there are carrying a weapon. And I know some said, well, it worked in Utah. Well, if you know what's going on in Utah, they're moving our direction. They're trying to produce a law like CKA. So training is required before you carry in school. So anyway, that's one to keep an eye on. It will definitely impact us. We'll have to do some work on our CKA policy to make sure that we're in line with that legislation. Let's see. House Bill 166 is the Wyoming Education Savings Account, which is also a little controversial and potentially be vetoed by the governor. This one is one of the largest pieces of legislation that came out this year. There is a lot there, and if you can understand what they're trying to get at, I've read it several times and I'm not sure exactly what it means. I know the interesting part of this is our homeschool parents are not supportive of this, because one of the requirements is, sure, you can get money to homeschool your student, but you're also required to take a state assessment or a national assessment. That's why they're homeschooling. They don't want to be a part of that. So this requires that. There's so much to this. It starts at a $6,000 payment to homeschool your kids, but it's based on the poverty level and your income. To me, this is going to be a weight around Wyoming Department of Education's neck to figure out how to do this for every student that chooses to be schooled at home. So anyway, that's 166. Some have called this the death to public education. If you can get $60,000 because you have, $30,000 because you have 10 kids, will you keep your kids home and educate them at home? A little more restrictive than that. I don't think that's going to happen. I feel more comfortable. They just kept adding amendments, which I guess my recommendation, if I was the governor, is veto it and tell them to take it back and work on it and clarify it. Make it so I think they're going to have lawsuit after lawsuit. But how it affects public schools, personally, you're talking about funding for public education now used for private parochial schools, which I think is a violation of Wyoming Constitution. That'll be the first group that takes this to court. Let's see. Enroll Act 70. This is probably the good news that is out there, is there is a lot of legislation dealing with property taxes, real estate, and exemptions and rebates. Ryan was really pretty positive, Representative Berger was really pretty positive about what the legislature did to protect homeowners. And again, not sure how this will impact all of us yet, but there are at least 4 or 5 bills that deal with exempting property tax. Let's see.
Did all those pass, is that what you're saying?
3 of them passed, yeah. Well, the other thing of interest to us is payroll deductions for retirement. Over the next 2 years, the employer's portion of retirement will go up 0.25% next year and 0.25% the year after that. The required employees' contribution will go up 0.25% this year, next school year, and then the year after that. Brings it almost to 20% goes into Wyoming retirement for our employees. In terms of the impact to us, we're reimbursed the employer's portion, but it does mean that whatever raise we give our employees, 0.25% is going into their Wyoming retirement. So pay a little more, we pay a little more, they have to pay a little more. So interesting, but again, our Wyoming retirement is one of the most service accounts out there, so this was felt that they needed to do it. So there's lots of legislation out there. That's just a few that I picked that will impact us. Any questions about these? The governor's probably got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces of legislation that are just sitting on his desk, which means if he doesn't sign them, they'll just go into law. He's got 2 that the bets are that he's potentially contemplating veto. That's the Educational Savings Account 166 and the repeal of gun-free zones 125. And then he has vetoed one of the laws dealing with charter schools. Basically what he did is he said he can't sign it, he needs to go back and they need to work through it again. So not saying he's against charter schools, that's just the way it works. So anyway, that's kind of where we are. Good news is we got the budget passed. Since it's a budget session, good for them. That's all I had.
On the legislative update?
Yes.
Certified contracts, discussion items.
Chairman Peterson, members of the board, you do have a list of all the certified employees that will be approved at the April board meeting. By law, we have to present those to you before April 15th, or they automatically, anyone who's tenure, get their contract renewed. This is what we've done every year. We present it to you in March, it's approved in April. We have a great staff, and you can see those that are tenured. They're the bottom group. The middle group are those that are going from their 2nd year to the 3rd year that have 2 years in Wyoming. Those would be tenured. Those going from the 3rd contract to the 4th year will be tenured, and then the initial contract teachers. It's interesting, and we'll get to that, but this is the fewest number of resignations we've had since I've been involved in this in 35 years this year. So I guess that's good news, but something that we're not used to. So that's my report.
Okay.
Thank you.
On to discussion item of health insurance. Permission to seek.
I should have split these up so you didn't have to listen to me the whole time. Chairman Peterson, members of the board, this is an interesting discussion for me. You guys know we've talked about it. I've been committed all year long to go out to bid for insurance. Our kind of rule of thumb is every 3 years we go out to bid. 5 years ago was the last time we went out to bid for health insurance. Every year we look at it and there's reasons not to go out to bid. This year I was pretty committed because of some of the issues that you've heard with the University of Utah contracts. At one point, the negotiations between Aetna and University of Utah did not go well. That's one of the main reasons why we have Aetna and not other insurances, because of the network of hospitals along the Wasatch Front. If we go with the state insurance, Lisbeth, we lose University of Utah. And we had at least 50 emails from our current employees that were very upset that potentially they were using the University of Utah hospital system. It's not just the hospital, it's all the services that they provide that our people would lose. In discussion with our agent, Mr. Hockland, who's here and is very willing to answer questions, we just don't think it's wise to go out to bid. In 5 years, nothing's changed. There's only one main carrier available to us, large groups, that allows us to use the Wasatch Front. There are no other different carriers. In other words, when we put an RFP that requires the Utah hospital system, there's no one that meets those expectations. Again, we've gone out to bid, at least I've been involved 3 times in 20 years. We've never had a qualifying bidder. And that hasn't changed. So we can still go out to bid, and what it does give is it gives our current provider an opportunity to raise their rates, not based on usage. And you guys know what's happening out there in insurance. So the interesting part in my discussion is that I don't think we should go out to bid.
Did you form a health committee like we talked about?
That was part of this process. That was what we were going to do. That's moving forward. If we went out to bid, that's what we've done in the past.
Well, this was part of the meet and confer, wasn't it, that we do this?
It's part of an agreement with EEA leadership, and depending on what you guys decide, I will meet with them this week and explain. The last time I spoke to the EEA leadership, it was during this issue with the University of Utah hospital system and our provider. Even then, Dan told me that he thought it'd be worked out. It was. And I said, without that system, there's no reason not to go out to bid. I think we just approach them with the same thing. There's no reason to go out to bid. You're going to get the same providers and potentially an increase. And Wisbay, the state's insurance is good insurance, but to get major services, you're going to have to go to Casper. And that's not good for our employees.
There are some concerns about the employees where there's not mental health in our hospitalization, and other concerns about what do you pay when you go, your deductible, thank you.
And my answer to that is lots of concerns about every health insurance, and we're going to face those regardless of who we have. The issues with Aetna that we have, I don't think they're unique. But the other side of the coin is the number of individuals that don't have issues with our current health insurance because they can use the hospitals along the Wasatch Front. We lose that, our people, there's no way our people would allow us to take that hospital network away along the Wasatch Front. That's where I think we spend the bulk of our health insurance dollars is along the Wasatch Front. To maintain an insurance company that provides that only makes sense. If there comes a time when there's another major provider that allows us to do that, I think we go out to bid. There's some competition. Right now, there isn't.
Isn't it school policy that it goes out for bid every so many years?
It's a practice.
It was what?
It's a practice. Again. Yeah. So, again, when I started, there's one of the things that we talked about is our attorneys, agents, every 3 years we give individuals another shot at that. 3 years really is almost too quick. Every year it comes up, the board, with recommendation from myself, decides what we do and how we do it. It's the same now. So that's why on the agenda originally was the proposal to go out to bid. My recommendation is we don't. If the board chooses to go out to bid, we'll do it. Dan, is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, I would just like to add that the process for Chairman Peterson and board, thank you for the opportunity to be here. The process that the bid, or not the bid, the notification for that negotiations has changed by Medicare. So previously, Medicare required that the health insurance company look back 30 days and notify, or look back 6 months and notify people 30 days. This was the first year that it went back, and they have to notify everybody that saw a primary care physician or a behavioral health provider for 3 years, and they upped it to 45 days of notice. So on December 15th, they were in negotiations. They hadn't met negotiations. Boom, letters went out. We started getting emails, we started getting calls. That negotiation ended at the end of January. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Utah, same thing last year. They went down to 5 days. This negotiation went down to 2 days. It's the name of the game. It's a state-of-the-art negotiation. You're buying a water irrigation system. You're buying an automobile. What do? You negotiate. That's what University of Utah did. And they Aetna negotiated, and yeah, it went down to the last minute. Everybody was sweating it out. But I assured Superintendent Thomas and all of the employees it would probably be negotiated. I had multiple phone calls in to multiple individuals I know on both sides, and they all said, it'll work out, it'll work out. It did. So I think there's a little bit of explanation there as to why that happened differently this year than it has in the past. And when Ryan says there hasn't been anything change, there hasn't. There isn't any new carriers. I've been working on University of Utah health plans to come into the state. They've came here for individual plans. They've came here for Medicare plans. They've come here for self-funded plans. The only thing left is fully insured plans is what we want. They're within 2 to 3 years of doing that. When they do come for that, that will be that hospital network, and I'll be the first guy up here at the superintendent's office saying, we need to bid. We need to see if we're in the game. Right now, there's no other options. So that's what I'd like to add.
And just an explanation about the insurance committee. We've had an insurance committee, I think I was on the original committee in 1988. And what the committee does is it reviews our options for health insurance. Probably for the first 10 years of that committee, it was additional funding and better benefits. When funds started getting tight, it actually became a committee to decide we have to cut our services. What options do you want to cut? That's what it's been since probably 2006, when we began moving away from 100% paid for by the district and splitting that cost with our members. The challenge now and what we do and how we do that representation is in negotiations, because it is truly a negotiated item. If there's a 6% increase to insurance, do you as employees want to pay that 6% and get a 6% increase and that money would go to your salaries? Or do you want to split that increase, change your benefits, we pay half, you pay half, and you can change the benefits to make it work? That's a negotiated agreement. So that's where the insurance committee has moved, is in negotiations. We try to get the information out early, so EEA has that. I'll meet with EEA. I don't have a problem meeting with representatives from every building and explaining kind of and I'll say the increase to insurance. We don't know where it's going to be, but I guarantee you we're going to get an insurance increase.
Sure.
That's another reason why we're suing the state, by the way, but that's another topic. Again, it's a challenge when you go to representatives of our employees and say, we get a 6% increase. You can have a discussion on how you pay for it. It's not the same as it used to be. So that's why we moved it to negotiations, because you are negotiating salaries. We'll pay half the increase, you pay half, or you can change the benefits. Most of the time, they've agreed to change the benefits and pay a little more insurance. At some point, we just can't keep paying more or cutting our insurance, and that's, again, why we're suing the state right now. So my recommendation, you can see it's on the agenda to approve, to go out to bid. My recommendation is that we don't. And again, I leave that to the board to make the decision.
I did not see that one here, Ryan.
It's,
To go
what's
out to
that?
bid. Action items on number 9.
It's not an action item, but again, you guys can, if you choose
Okay.
to do it, let's just add it to F if you want to go ahead.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying, and I guess that's got to be the discussion that we have up here. If we want to move it to an action item, then we will amend the agenda at that time. But if it doesn't need to be put on there, and we're just going to keep as is and move forward, then it doesn't need to be added. That's where it's kind of a, I don't want to say sticky line that we're at, but I guess I want discussion from the board at this point, if we want to just keep going forward this way, or do you guys want to move to a vote as an action item and add it to item F on here to go out to negotiations, or not to negotiations, but go out to proposals and bids?
I'm fine with following Ryan's recommendation.
You what? I'm sorry, I didn't
I'm fine with following Ryan's recommendation. I don't think we should either.
I think we should meet with the EA first because of the meet and confer when I was there. I think we need to listen to what they have to say first before we vote on this.
Okay, so, I mean, it doesn't even need to be tabled because it's not an action item. So, right now, and I guess that's
I can
the
bring it
situation.
back. And I, like I said, I talked to Sonny directly about this and then basically said, yeah, we'll go out to bid, but I think things have changed, so I'll go talk to her. And we can meet with all the EA, or I can meet with Sonny and see what she wants to do.
Yeah. You've already met with Sonny? You've already met?
Not about this change.
No.
I will this week, yes.
But I guess that comes back to the board itself, and that's the discussion that we have. If there's only one or two members on here that wants to vote to go back to that situation, or the rest of them want to just move forward, that's what we've got to decide.
Yeah.
You know, and because it's not an action item, there's nothing to table at this point.
There isn't.
And so,
The only-
the only thing that we need to do is if we need to amend the agenda and add it as an action item.
If there's 5 of you that want to go out to bid, then put it on the action item and vote to put it on the action item.
And
You just need to see what everybody wants to do.
I know, and that's what I'm saying, is that the problem is, do I go to a vote at this point? Because it's,
No.
that's what I'm saying, so it's just an open
I think
discussion at this point.
Poll the board. I mean,
Yeah, let's pull the board at this time, so.
Or you can just have someone make a recommendation to amend the agenda to add it and see what happens then.
Just pull the board.
Just pull the board, okay? Mr. Bennett?
I'm good where it is.
I'm good where it is.
I'm good where it is.
I support Ryan, I'm good where it is.
I as well support Superintendent Thomas.
I oppose.
Okay. So,
I'll meet with the EA and report back to you guys as soon as I meet with them and let them know what they're thinking.
okay, all right. So thank you, so it will not be amended to the agenda at this point, so, okay. Next on there will be funding for the national competitions.
Mr. O'Neill, come on down.
Is that for the states from the diving that they were just talking about?
Sit here, sit down. So just real quick, want to talk about what your expectations are for national competition. This has been something put on my plate for, well, it's basically been since I started this job many years ago. How we handle national competitions, how much we're going to pay for national competitions. Our biggest issue with national competitions is every single year we're getting more and more kids going. You heard our dive coach, we have 3 girls, or two girls and a boy that are going to national competition. They've not asked for money, but most groups do ask for money, and where that's going to come from. What is your expectation? So Mr. Thomas and I, we've discussed this a little bit. I've actually discussed it with Doug and clear back when I started, Dr. Bailey. So just need a clear answer as to what my expectations are. Because if we're sending every kid to nationals and we're paying fully, I'm good with that. If we're sending every kid to national and paying for a sponsor, I'm good with that also. But I don't know if that's, I know it's not, I'm not capable of handling that within my budget. It's just not there. You're talking tens of thousands of dollars in cost. Right now, we have 8 in one group that just came to me and is asking for help to get to nationals.
And the reason why Mr. O'Neill brought this to my attention is because last year, we brought it to the board, and the board said, let's just pay for them. Kind of, like I said, the board can always make exceptions to their own policy and procedures. This is what's written, in terms of what we do for national competitions. There's actually 3 levels, and just to quickly go through it, the first level are national competitions where you almost invite yourself. There is no qualifying. If you're familiar with that, we've had national competitions for cheer and dance. We've had national competitions where you can go to Australia and play football, those kind of competitions. And there is also let's see if I can find it. There's an application, you can see it, that talks about these. No qualifying standard, no mark, and what's paid. So as you see, level 2 requires a qualifying standard or mark at a national level, regional, state competition. Only those individuals qualifying by standard or mark as set by the organization hosting the regional event will receive funding 20% of the approved expenses. So not very much if you're flying anywhere now for a national competition, 20% of the expenses. And does that include that we have to pay for a sponsor? Typically, when I think this were originally approved, this was just an opportunity for a student to go to a national competition that's qualified. Typically, they go with their parents. It's not, it's school supported 20%, but it's not necessarily a school event. I think that was the intent. The third level requires the participant to meet a qualifying standard or mark set by the organization hosting the national event. A little more restrictive, but right now, and Mr. O'Neill can verify this, most of these national events want all comers because they make money in these events. And so there needs to be clarification on what level do we want to support these kids. I don't think anyone's saying we don't want to support them, but financially, can we support to send 8 for a week at a national competition and pay a sponsor to go too? I just at some point, again, as tight as we've been with our budgets, and we don't know all of them. The first time I heard that we qualified divers and swimmers, great opportunity for those individuals, but again, we don't have budget for those. So that would come out of the reserve, potentially, one-time expenses. So I don't know if we're asking for any kind of solution. I think again, the first one's case by case. We may just have to bring them to you and see what you say. Or live by this and tell the people this is what you qualify for and this is what we pay.
So I guess on the side of WHSAA and the diving, what was the prerequisite for the divers to be able to compete at a national event? Do they have to be a state champion? Do they have to, what was the prerequisite that allowed these 3 divers to go or qualify?
It was points. It was the number of points they scored. They had to score a certain level. Yeah, to qualify.
And they haven't come to us, so I don't know if we have that information.
No, we
don't. It makes sense.
I would assume competency on the dive, that's...
Points.
Yeah.
The difficulties of the dives,
They score the points like gymnastics, it's out of 10.
Out of 10, yeah.
And if they score a certain number of points, then they qualify.
So it's has nothing to do whether he's a state champion or she's a state champion as a diver.
No.
It has to do with the difficulty of dives and the points that they score from them.
Yeah.
So, Mr. O'Neill, explain kind of where the national competition kids may come from.
They could come from, we do have a large number from DECA, they could come from speech and debate, they can come from FCCLA, they do come from FCCLA, they can come from our music programs.
And those are typical level 2, regional qualifiers.
Right, and they could be FFA, any of our activities. We've typically not provided any funding for athletics, only for our activities. When I first took this job, we might have 4 or 5 a year. Now I'm seeing 15, 20 kids a year qualifying for nationals. So the number has greatly increased. I don't know, I don't want to speculate as to why. I don't think that would be fair for me to do that right here, but something is causing those numbers to go up. Either we're getting really good, our sponsors are getting really good at training these folks, or maybe not as many kids from other districts are willing to travel and incur some of these expenses.
So do we have a lot of kids that cross over from program to program. Can we have a kid that qualifies in multiple national events to go compete in?
Absolutely, yes. If you have kids that are, their focus is, I believe would be a connection, definitely a connection between DECA, for example, and speech and debate. I think there could be a connection between speech and debate and FFA, because a lot of that's speaking. And those kids that are gifted in that area would be able to qualify in many of those areas. We've not had that. I'm not known to that we've had any. I've not known that. That's not happened yet, but it could possibly happen.
So what, following this, basically, what the position the district's taking is we'll provide funds to assist, but really, you're on your own, your parents are your sponsors, or whoever they want to sponsor you, wouldn't be going as a team. Now, if there was a team event that qualified, then we'd have to come back and revisit that. But these are typically individual national qualifiers.
One thing that I will say is DECA traditionally, that's a great one. I think we have 8 national qualifiers this year, 8 kids going in one program. Typically, they fund a majority of that themselves. I don't know that they're able to accomplish that today because of some of the restrictions they have on how they can raise money within our school itself. But they pay for a portion of that, a good portion of that. If you look at that, they might get 20 or 25%. That's what I've told them in the past. We're gonna provide 20% of your total costs. So if it costs $3,000 per student to go, we would pay 25% of that cost. It's still a significant number for us, but it's not $3,000 per student.
Right.
And Mr. Thomas and I talked about, is it our responsibility to send the sponsor? I think if we're sending kids, we're providing funding for kids, it is our responsibility to pay for the sponsor to go and supervise those kids.
And then you get into the question of if it's a program that has both male and female, do you have to send 2 sponsors?
2 sponsors.
And again, I guess it's a good problem to have students that are performing at that level. But in the past, it was never a question. It was always 20 to 25% based on the qualification, and the school wasn't expected to send a sponsor.
If they have a parent going, I mean, are we really required to send a sponsor?
No, that's what I'm saying. The message of 20% or 25% is saying, we're just helping you with your fundraising. You're on your own, basically.
Yeah.
Thanks for representing us.
Especially if the numbers are increasing, we can't.
And you can
afford
see
that.
the application that accompanies this does talk about their plan with financial hardships. What are your plans should fundraising efforts fall short?
But then again, it's a case-by-case basis though, too. I mean, I think we can stick with what we have here and then just look at each situation as it comes, but.
Yeah, why do we want to change what's already, is this something we've been using, right?
We have. The question that we had is last year, you guys stated if we're sending to nationals, we should be paying for those kids to go to nationals. But what does that mean? Is it 100%? Or is it want to stick to this?
Right there, you got what it says.
Well, that's what, I guess, what they're asking.
You want us to change it?
No, that's what they're asking is, do we stay the way it is? Or last year, we talked about paying 100% to send.
Well, if you're sending 1 or 2 kids a year to a national event, it's a little different than sending 8 to 15 of them.
I think you leave it where it's at. It's already there. It's worked so far, why change it?
You guys good with that?
I'm good with that.
I guess I want recommendations from the 2 of you on it.
I have a question here. You were talking about nationals, the Down Under Bowl went kaput when COVID happened, but they come back with a new name now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a certain category. They will take anybody now.
Right, that's different.
And if you open this door,
Well, if you notice, there is no funding.
no
mark
funding for the-
qualifying
but
state.
that's the way nationals are going now.
They are.
They really are. And that's really our concern, is that how far do we go? Because we don't, in some cases, know what the qualifying standard is. All we get is, hey, we qualified for nationals, you said you would pay for us to go.
Yeah.
We heard 100%. Well, it could
lot of
be
money.
any number of things, like you said, the Down Under Bowl, which is not really the Down Under Bowl.
They've changed the name now, but like with dance, I do know dance, if you get a certain category at camp, you can go to nationals. So are you going to pay for the whole team to go? We used to pay for ourselves, but you're opening the door for that.
Last year, we held that mark, is you can go, but the funding came from the program itself. And that's kind of why we're having this discussion, is we've already had a discussion about open the floodgates. There are some programs that have legitimately qualifying marks. I think DECA, FCLA, they've always had qualifying marks. So at least we can say, yeah, we're going to support you at some level. We want you to move on, but really the responsibility is you or your program. It's probably a big commitment if you have a large team of DECA kids and 8 qualify and you start raising money as a DECA program for those kids, then you might start getting into other board policies that prevent that. I think I like the case-by-case that's up there. We're just going to have to say no to the non-qualifying standard because there are so many of those now. Right. Because people are in it for making money, and the others, I think we just have to have them fill this out and we discuss it, make a recommendation to them. If they don't like our recommendation, they can appeal it to you. I think that's probably the way to go. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's exactly where we're headed is, we know you want to support every kid. We all want to support every kid. It's so hard for you to have them come up before you and say, why are you not supporting me? And so if we have this in place, it doesn't come before you. It goes here to the committee, and the committee can look at these things on a case-by-case
And it
basis.
shows the committee there. Tells
who is the
who's on it.
committee?
Well, we can make the committee whoever we want to be. On there,
It's
on there is the principal.
Activity director.
There, so, okay.
Yeah, so, but we can make that whatever we want that to be, but it really takes it out of you guys, because you can't say no. Like, none of us can say no. When those kids come up here, you want to support them in any way you can. And I don't believe as a district we can support every single person that's qualified for nationals. We can look at this, we can decide what level that they fall, and then tell them exactly what we're going to give them in terms of funding. And what I like about it, it puts it on them. How much money do you want to spend? You can spend as much as you want, but you're still only going to get 20% or 25% of that from the district.
And that was one of the concerns we talked about, is when we agree to pay 100% of any activity, we lose control of the hotels, the flights, the food, and so this at least puts a dollar value on it. More responsible, I think.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
What do you think?
Status quo.
What do you think?
She zoned out about an hour ago, I promise you.
No, I think that's good.
Whatever ends this conversation. It's all right, we're film safe.
We're done there, so, all right. Thank you, you two. That is the last of our discussion items. So I guess we can move on to public comments.
Come on up. Yes. Yeah, you need to give us your name and address. My real name? No, you don't need to give us your name and address.
So we can find you.
You can find me. My name's David Welling. I live at 301 Center Street here in Evanston, Wyoming. I'm looking at these pictures and my superintendent goes clear back to here. So I've been here a while.
Good year?
Yes. Yeah. When I was in grade school. So I think some of you know why I'm here and what I do. I run the Boost program. I'm the one that does all the paperwork for the Boost program, and it's kind of ironic I'm having this discussion because your high school's having the musical of Footloose, and that was all about not being able to dance, and I kind of feel like Kevin Bacon, so I'm going to read Ecclesiastics. There's a time to everything there's a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pick up what was planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance. Mr. O'Neill talked about what's your noble cause, and these Boost kids are my noble cause. I've been doing this for 2.5 years, and every time a dance comes up, they're turned down because they're classified as a dropout. Your school policy says that if they're a dropout, they can't go. And I don't agree with the term dropout with these kids, because they're not dropped out. They're in a school. They're getting their high school equivalency. And so they haven't dropped out. They've dropped back in. They left, if you look at the form that they signed to get out of school, it says school withdrawal. It doesn't say school dropout, it says school withdrawal form. And I just want you to look at your policy and maybe change that so it's not such a hard line. If a kid drops out and goes to online school, he's allowed to go to these dances. If a kid graduates and is under 19, he's allowed to go to these dances. He's not in school. Our kids are an approved, accepted school by the state of Wyoming. 3 of you people sit on the board that oversees BOCES, that oversees our program. So it is tied with the school district somehow. And so that's my plea, is that you look at that. And so Caleb, what's your definition of dropout? When you think dropout, what do you think?
I think of a kid that doesn't finish high school.
Okay. Mr. Bennett, what's a dropout to you?
Pain in the butt.
Okay. Right.
I mean, I've dealt with a lot of them, and usually they have their issues, and I understand that.
Right.
And the Boost program has been a good program for those kids.
Right.
But they do separate themselves from high school and Horizon, either one.
Right. Absolutely, absolutely, and there are reasons for that, and I think most, not all, but a big bulk of the students that come to me are recommended by the high school counselors because of they're not going to graduate. You're not going to have the credits. This is your best option to get your high school equivalency. Right. Been doing this since August 2021. At the end of May, I'll have had over 75 kids get their high school education either through the Boost program, the Valley Learning Center, or through adult basic education. And it's coming through the workforce services. It's a lot of paperwork, but it's worth it. That's my noble cause. I just want you to look at your policy and quit qualifying my Boost kids as dropouts, because they're not. They are not dropouts. My Boost kids are allowed to participate in band, they can participate in choir, they can participate in swim, and they can do all those activities with the high school. But they're classified as dropout, and they can't go to a dance. And that doesn't make sense to me as a father. It would drive me absolutely bonkers. My youngest daughter had to leave the high school because of problems she was having. And this was her best alternative. She graduated through Boost. And she works for the school district. So it's just, the term dropout is such a negative term for these kids. They're not. Most of these kids qualify for the Hathaway Scholarship because of their high set scores. We talked about, Mr. Williams talked about his success rate. My kids either have to get a job or go on to the higher education. We're at 70% right now. Boost graduation rate is over 90%. It's not easy. I ask any of you to try and take the practice high set tests. It's not a piece of cake. It's not. I felt really dumb when I was taking the math. About kicked my butt. But anyway, I don't want to keep you longer because your room is hot, and I'm on the city council, and your meetings are way too dang long, so.
You get paid and we don't?
You're all welcome. There's some seats coming up. My $20 a day doesn't cover a lot of the headaches you get. But I just ask you to please look at your school policy and include the boost kids. I know that you're not going to have it. You're not, and I understand if the boost kid was a pain in the butt, like you said, and was a disciplinary problem, absolutely not. I would not recommend them to go. But you have a kid like Tori that wants to go. She's told no. She was able to go to the homecoming dance because she was doing online school, but she dropped out of high school to do online school. But when she shifted over to Boost, now she can't go to any dances. And I don't think that's right. I don't think it's fair. It almost looks like you're targeting the Boost kids. So thank you for listening to my rambles. I'm not going to do the Kevin Bacon dance. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Weston Cobb, 122 Navajo Circle. It's been a long time, Mr. Bennett, Mr. Rigby, Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, it is.
I'm one of those pain-in-the-butt dropouts. A lot of people didn't think I was really going to go far in my life, and it turned out quite well for me. I worked my butt off, but I did it. Raising this girl and a couple other kids. Got my wife here, and I was talking to Mr. Kohler this morning on the phone, and he kept saying that, Tori was a dropout, and I just wanted to reach through there and just, because I know she's not a dropout. She's not doing what I did when I left school. She's actually pursuing something. She's got goals in mind. She's got a higher education in mind, and it's not fair, just like Mr. Welling said, it's not fair to those kids in that program, not just her, but all the kids in that program, or the kids that might be in that program later on, that want to be participating in the school dances and such, that they're automatically cast out as rejects because they dropped out of school. I don't think it's right. As much as I don't like saying it, it's not fair to them. I know they've made a decision to go on that track and follow, go on that path to the Boost program, but there's reasons for it. Not everybody's for regular school. Not everybody can sit through 8 hours of instruction and be all right with that. If they can do something else to get through and get that high set or get that GED and move on with their life, that's what we should be doing. That's what we should be pushing them to do, not sit in school and, put the diploma so far up here. I do get the reasoning, but I think that we need to step back and actually think about what's best for these kids instead of looking at them and saying, hey, you're a dropout. Because I don't think that's right at all. So, thank you guys.
Thank you. Just one more thing. She passed all of her high set tests today, so she's a graduate.
Congratulations.
She's a graduate.
So I'm Maisha Cobb. I'm Tori Ann's mom, also Weston Cobb's wife. I live at 122 Navajo Circle. I pride myself on my role, which is education. I push my kids to exceed. I'm always backing up the school district when it comes to disciplinary with my own kids. So I understand that this education is very important. With that saying, I agree that the Boost program kids, this is a great program that we have here in our town. And I've learned about it just working with Wraparound Solutions. I didn't know much about the Boost program before then, but knowing now what I know, these individuals are working really hard on their education. It's not easy to go in and take a test and be told you don't know enough and then have to learn it to pass it. They're not only working on their education skills, but they're also working on their work skills. When they graduate, the graduation numbers, they show. This is a very good program. These individuals are working really hard. Tori was a 3.0 student when she was attending EHS. She was not a hard student. She was going to school, making the grades. She joined FCCLA. She was a wrestling manager, so she was involved in EHS. Unfortunately, we did move her sophomore year, and she started Wyoming Connections, where she, again, still kept her grades at a 3.0. I know you're probably wondering, well, why didn't she finish? She just, with the junior year coming, she kind of struggled a little bit, but she still wanted to be a part of EHS. We paid her activities fees so she could still be a part of FCCLA, where she is still attending. But now, because she's a Boost program participant, she is not allowed to join the dance. She can still do sports, she can still do clubs, she just can't attend a dance. So again, I'm asking for you guys to look at this policy and possibly change it. The Boost program, like I said, I'm trying to find my notes, I'm sorry. Tori and Braxton, they have filled out the proper forms to ask for approval. Tori was approved for homecoming because she was at Wyoming Connections, but after further investigation, Scott Kohler has decided to deny her because she is a Boost participant and a dropout. Even though she has graduated, she has finished her high set, she has attended every day, she has only missed one day due to the flu, and went back even though she was not feeling well. So I'm here to ask you guys, please look at this policy and change it so these Boost program kids can attend a dance. I mean, it would be beneficial for mine, but also future Boost program attendants that would like to go. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Part of your public speaking part of the Boost program.
I'm Tori.
Address.
122 Navajo Circle.
Last name.
Trower.
Thank you.
Tori Ann Trower. I classified as a dropout. I have completed my high set today, and as me being emotional as I am, I'm just wondering why, as being classified as a dropout, not necessarily saying like I'm a bad kid. I'm not. I was in trouble once through the 2 years I was in Evanston High School for just dumb things, but I myself have never been expelled, never been suspended, nothing. I've never given a reason not to be allowed at school campus. I've been there, done what I can, and I'm just wondering like what leeway, like what can we do to change? Is there any way we can help? Is there what, and why is the Boost classified as kids that dropped out of high school, basically, and through DHS? And I've heard, I have a fellow classmate that got approved from a different school, Horizon. She got approved to go, but then I didn't get approved through EHS. So there's a debate on, is it biased? Is it who I am? My last name? What is it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Nobody else? So, at this moment, I need to have a motion to adjourn the board meeting and go into an executive session meeting.
So moved.
Second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussions? None? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. We'll be back.
Trooper. I think that's a concealed weapon.
Getting that to you.
Mr. Phillips,
I want your presentation.
I need you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we love you, Bob.
What about that, but hey. It's like you're
I'm so tired. I'm about to fall asleep. No, I'm okay. Yeah. I don't want to go to dance tomorrow.
scored 12.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Are you reading
It's good to see you.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, I got you.
I talked to him a dozen times, but I've never met him.
So it's a 12-week program, and it's for done, not starting next week.
We've talked so many times.
And the instructors are
Thank you.
just incredible. It's not me, it's on the paper. Make sure you're in class.
Well, it's good to see you.
See you later.
See you.
That was a good footloose.
Dancing.
Do you want me to write that down? Yeah, sure. Okay. Just so I get it on the policy.
So where did you drive from today?
Gillette.
And then he hasn't been asleep yet, so he's pretty tired.
I bet. It doesn't help that the room's 900 degrees.
I was up there shaking. I'm trying to think about what I was going to say. I had a whole speech written on my phone and it's dead.
He had pulled up the statue, he did all kinds of statues. Okay, so you told him. I said, that's what I do.
I know. So that's what I'm talking about. I've done it like survived because of BOCES. And apparently it's because they're not in the
Right.
But the ones that I've looked at, BOCES is accredited.
It is accredited, supported.
It's not accredited, it's an accepted program by the Board of Education by the state of Illinois, and it's the role model for all the other programs across the state. I do too. It can't be a hard line.
And I don't expect like a hard one thing, but just straight up standard dropout, like that's not fair.
That's, yeah. We, like, what is his name? Braylon got approved. And Braylon was expelled for bringing a gun to school. And he's going to prom. He got approved.
Yeah, I did too, right?
It's the gun free zone. It's gun free zone.
On his own, if he has it.
So if you look at how the student handbook is written, it says in there that the guest has to be enrolled in an accredited school and it has to be approved by the state. That they have to be enrolled. So all these kids that are getting approved that aren't enrolled in school because they're 19 and their girlfriend or their boyfriend's still in school.
So it doesn't address if the boyfriend dropped out.
But it says that they have to be in an accredited school.
No, the student has to be. Yeah, it says if they have to be under 19 to come. So it's kind of, it just needs to be relooked at.
Worded, really. It's really,
Keep pushing through.
if anything, it's.
So she's a graduate. How is this one? Like that. She's got her license, she's graduated. No longer graduated. If you want to split hairs. Right.
We really do, I really do like the school district. I really
I haven't seen Mr. Bennett since
Since he
I dropped out. And I was one of those dropouts. I was one of those.
Probably.
He looks sad when he says
Oh, I know.
I'm getting a text from the center manager in Roxbury. She's screaming for you guys. I said, I didn't look at him, what was he doing? We were the topic of the center managers meeting.
That's cool.
It's definitely being talked about because,
Well, and it's come up, but none of the kids were bringing up to school. I told you, I'll go speak with I'll fight for you anywhere I can. And they would all never know, so I'm glad you did.
I'll make it for those other students.
you only need one person to make a change.
That's right. And it doesn't get changed, it's probably attention.
You sit there and want to cry like water.
But if you're not willing to stand up and make the ripples, you're not gonna make the waves.
That's why we're recording.
I'm old.
I was like,
I connected them.
I was in grade school.
I thought you were talking about the woman. Is there a woman?
No.
No? That first one's not a woman?
No, I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure that first one's a woman.
That's Dr. Harding.
It's a man? It's a very pretty man.
74, I was in grade school. And he was a principal for a while, and then he was a superintendent. Yeah, monkey.
Did he really?
I don't
No, you had faith.
He was the last superintendent. Makes me feel old.
Did you have I started working with my dad when.
And that dude hated my hands.
No, it was Jerry. So what was his?
Sorry, Tori.
Well, I guess I did.
So you ran to Shelty
I graduated in 83. That's when I started.
Like, that's how much that he hated me. And I had the sticker and everything, like, it was totally legit. He was here, I was in his office. I think he had something, and he, Rigby, Mr. Rigby, he first started the Horizon School there.
Yeah, I know, I read that whole
Because I
thing.
was going to Horizon for like 3 months. Like, they really tried, like, I don't even know if they really hated me. I think it was just a workshop, we had a whole crew.
Tell me what one of your guys' offsprings are hailing in the school now. Thank goodness I had you away.
I would rather have ribs, some feedback ribs, maybe some baked potatoes, something like that. I'll settle with Dr. Pepper and baked fruit.
I just, I think that if he was driving, so you. Well, that makes sense because of the snap. He's at promenade. He's at promenade. Who? 9. Promenade is where you learn the dance, but we have to go watch him on Saturday. Him and Bella, they learn the dance. That's prom.
Devin Kopp with Bella Lovett.
I was teaching that last night, but
He has so much fun.
It's too late
Like,
now.
he really, for him, it was weird. He was like, that was so much fun. I can't wait to go back tomorrow. And I was like, okay.
I know, he was good.
Just as good as
I was like, always as good at something. I would have known that kid's got smooth
I just wanted to make you aware of
Good work, guys.
Well, I did too.
We don't know.
Probably not. We'll probably go Tuesday. We'll drop out. You can't go to the school day. Whether you're against. Yeah.
But the only one is honest and that she was. You could have just been like, oh, she's. Right, I mean, she graduated. You could have just said that because she's a participant.
Makes sense to me.
What? In the student body? Right now, I'm thinking Utah Tech, but I'm gonna try out for the sports team. So, like Utah State or Utah Tech and Colorado Mesa, and kind of see, like, if whichever one I think that would kind of like help me make my decision. Why not?
You were shaky at first.
Also, I'm like looking at like money aspect of it, and Utah Tech.
I was gonna read my last thing with Brian.
If it comes down to money, it's Utah Tech, but it's so far away. But, I don't know.
Oh, public speaking. Oh, you already got this one?
Oh, really? That's cool.
I just kept telling myself, it's going to be the next second.
Oh, that's cool.
Mine is that I forget what I'm going to say, so I have to have it. If I'm going to be a public speaker. That's like totally, you should just. I've enjoyed it.
And our favorite, like, productions.
I don't text her.
I don't know what they use. I don't get a musical
They're talking about. I think that they should start engaging gardens. Like cows and chickens, they should do gardens. Over at the cow. It's right by their store.
That's so many dances. That studio like that, like so.
So they own
That's crazy, I know, but I think about like, I was doing, like, you'd be like, oh, I know, you have a different dance, because when you're a dancer, that's your whole life. But here, like, you can have it into other things, you know, but that's crazy.
Rush was because she just bottled
That's so cool. Like, I'll sleep back. I was actually
Tractors. Unless you.
Like, when we went to our, in January, when we went to state, they still have to collect your tickets. They still have to like, we went up against, like, we started this second national competition, which was like, so good, but it's just really fun to watch. But then you have to like, let it do so much, just the ability to yourself when you're watching, it's so good. It's so crazy. She don't start even that, straight
red.
Like a rush. Oh, yes.
Let's go. So I just.
Yeah, it's like just so like intriguing, like interesting to watch. You're like, oh, because you never know like who's gonna come up maybe a little better. One point that you know, this is crazy. My granddaughter who's this means just so much.
At the airport. He's gonna stay the night. He's gonna stay the night at his but it has to be after. Or like Friday.
So cool. At least if they're on like Kansas, it's like this gigantic. And then they like play something. That's so cool. Oh, that would be awesome. I should have questions like in every sport.
She's still dying.
Yeah, that's started with high school.
Without your permission, I'm going to take it. Hey, thank you for all the money you're going off the hinges.
This wasn't
This one. If it's not, I'm in the wrong one.
All right, bear with me, I got a bunch of hoops that we've got to jump through here. So, first off, I need a motion to leave the executive session and then go back into the Union County School District Number 1 Board of Trustees board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. All right. Just for clarification at this point, our executive session that we just went into had to deal with personnel matters. It was personnel issues that we went back in there and had addressed within the executive session. But at this time, I need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a motion to add a action item E for the center pivot project for Red Devil Ranch?
So what I need first is I need to amend the agenda.
Amend the agenda, I apologize.
Yeah, so I need a motion to amend the agenda to add action item E, the purchase of the center pivot.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Action item E has been amended to the action items. So, action item number A, I need a motion to approve the personnel, item I, 1, 2, and 3.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the action item for number 1, personnel,
Number 2.
and number 2 and number 3.
Okay.
Second?
I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. I need a motion to ratify the student disciplinary action that was discussed within the executive session.
So moved.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. We're moving on to action item C, approve the restrictive covenant with Smiths.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the restrictive covenant with the Smiths organization.
Second?
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to action item D, approve the restrictive covenant with Yellow Creek Ranch.
Mr. Chairman, I need to,
No.
wait,
No, not yet.
next one,
It's
sorry
Yellow Creek
about that.
Ranch. Yeah. Red Devil Ranch.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion,
Second that motion.
and I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, we're moving on to action item E, the purchase of the center pivot for the Red Devil Ranch.
Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself from this vote.
Okay,
Motion.
I need a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Second?
I got a motion and I have a second. Any discussions? None? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. The pivot will be purchased. All right, that finishes up our action items for the evening. We will move on to board roundtable. So I will be the first one to congratulate Mr. Merle Lester on his decision to move on to less green pastures and decide he wants to be one of those individuals that chooses another path in their career at this point. So, again, thank you for your service. I think it's 17 years, Merle, so it's a commitment, and we go through a lot of heartaches and a lot of triumphs and ups and downs in the education industry, but thank you so much for your service and willingness to be part of our community again.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. Appreciate it.
I'd like to take the opportunity to piggyback on that. 17 years ago, I hired Mr. Lester, and I felt like we were a good team. It was a good experience, and Merle's done a good job all these years, and follow right along. Whoever his predecessor is, we'll see what happens there, but Merle, job well done, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, any other roundtable items at all? None? So I need a motion to adjourn the Union County School District Number 1 Board of Trustees meeting. It is 8:45, sorry.
So moved.
Second that motion.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion? None? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. I guess I got to sign
Have a
some stuff.
concealed weapon on school property. I think we have a concealed weapon on school property.